Okay, so we're back to the computer here.
Yep.
And now we're going to look at, instead of 1 plus the square root of 2, we're going to look at 1 minus the square root of 2. And we're going to see if we can see what happens to 1 minus the square root of 2. Okay. There it is at the beginning, minus 0.414 like we said.
Yeah.
Now let's look at this, the second power. 0.17. And let's look at the third power.
This should be negative.
Negative 0.071. What's happening to this these powers?
They keep alternating from negative to positive.
They keep alternating from negative to
It seems
positive.
like they're getting closer to 0.
It seems like they are getting closer to 0. Why is that?
Wow. I'm not sure. Because the square root of 2, it's more than 1. Well, the square root of 2 has decimals in it.
Right.
So you could keep multiplying those together.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's go back to 1 here, the first power. And let's do a bad approximation of this. Okay? Let's just pretend that's minus 1/2.
Okay.
Okay, which is not a great approximation of this.
No.
But it is a number that's a little bit easier to deal with. What is minus 1/2 squared?
Minus 1/2 squared, it's gonna be 1/4. Because a minus times a minus is positive.
Okay, it's going to be 1/4. What's minus 1/2 cubed?
I think it's minus 1/8.
Minus 1/8. What's minus 1/2 to the fourth power?
It's positive 1/16.
What's happening here?
It's getting closer and closer to 0.
It's getting closer and closer to 0. When you take numbers that are between minus 1 and 1, and you square them and cube them, they actually get closer and closer to 0. When you take numbers that are bigger than 1 or bigger than minus 1, when you square them, they get farther and farther away from 0.
Yep.
But this one gets closer and closer to 0. But remember, it seemed like when we added it to 1 plus the square root of 2, we always got an integer. So if this one gets closer and closer to 0, so we're adding something that's closer and closer and closer to 0 to something else, that other thing must be getting really close to being an integer, if they always add up to an integer.
Yeah.
Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what are those integers that we get to. Okay, and I want one of you to go over to the board and write them down. Okay, 1 minus the square root of 2.
Okay.
A to the p. Actually, you know what? I'll just do a to the p plus b to the p. Okay. Okay, so, and we're going to start at the 0 power. It adds up to 2, because anything to the 0 is 1.
Yeah.
So 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay? Now to the first power. It seems to add up to 2 again. Remember, we found that though, right?
Yeah.
Now, the second power, do you remember what that was? Because we did this calculation. Remember what it was?
No.
We just found it in the last video.
6.
6. Okay, so let's see if that's right. Hey, 6.
Yay.
Yay. 3, third power,
14.
14. Notice 0.000. We always do seem to be getting.
Integer.
Fourth power, 34.
Whoa.
Fifth power, 82. Sixth power, 198.
Whoa.
Seventh power, 478. Why don't we stop here?
Yeah.
And then we're going to try to see if we can figure out anything about these powers. Okay?
Yep.
All right, here we go.